Dr. Freeman, how in the world are you today?
Well, I'm fine this early morning before school starts.
And with clouds in the sky and all that, you got one day, right?
Well, if you're a student, you're waking up to your last free morning before you start up. So that, I guess that the clouds may be somewhat symbolic of the day.
Oh, listen to you waxing poetic this morning. You are one of those, and you've made a marvelous impact on the schools as far as the arts programs. The beginning of the school year, I remember it. Mother was a teacher, of course, you know that, and it was always hustle and bustle. The teachers have actually been at it probably for days or weeks, and getting Mother would always go in, get her room set up, look at her supplies, and see if there's anything that was needed, and. Then we all had to go buy our books back in those days. That was a pain in the neck and expensive too. It was not nearly as expensive to buy books for grammar school, and of course we didn't have middle school back then. It was grammar school and high school, or elementary school and high school, and but it was still expensive enough. And now of course that's something that's provided by our tax dollars, and I think that's a good thing, because every kid has. Technologically, where are we? Every kid got a computer now.
Yeah, that's a great question. You give me an excellent lead in to talk about digital by design. One of the great challenges we've had for several years is buying textbooks for all of our students, and the State Department or the state legislature allocates us a certain amount of money each year to buy those. And I was telling our staff last week that money amounts to about half of what we need every year for new textbooks. But for less than that amount, we're able to lease Chromebooks for every child in grades 3 through 12. And this year will be the first year that we'll have our digital by design fully in place, where every student in grades 3 through 12 will have a Chromebook, which is a device. Essentially, it's a computer, and you can do all your functions on the cloud. As it's called now. And then our students in PK to 2 will have almost a 1-to-2 ratio device per student. So we're making big strides this year from the technology perspective, and we've had a great team. Mike Robinson and his team over the last about 18 months has been readying us for this great opportunity.
So the kids won't be carrying a big old backpack anymore. They got the Chromebook, and they got maybe their notebook and stuff.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Are we seeing is there an extinction of skills? Are we seeing kids lose the capacity to add, subtract, divide, multiply in their heads? Are we losing, I know we're losing the skill to write script. Of course, if you've ever seen my script, you wouldn't call it a skill. But maybe it's like primitive cave art. But are we losing those skills, or are they becoming extinct?
Well, I think the thing that we're having to really think about now is what it is that we want our kids to do skill-wise when they do leave us.
Okay.
And, that's a great question. The reading, writing, arithmetic, those 3 R's are still very important. I mean, the reality is if our children can't read, they really are not going to be able to do math, and they're not going to be able to do science and other areas. So it's still the most fundamental things that we do. What the device does is it exposes every student to the World Wide Web, which is unlimited information. We think it helps the opportunity gap, Jim, because the reality is we couldn't send textbooks home to every student. This year, they get the device they take home. So if they've got access to the World Wide Web, and certainly we know not everybody does, but we're making great strides in giving everyone the same opportunity for learning. So these skills, back to what you asked, the skills that we think that this device helps us with is the collaborative pieces of working together, teamwork, communication, which is done differently now than we did it. I can tell you a lot of stories about what is happening in employers throughout the nation, communication, Pete, but being a part of teams and working together, this device gives us a real new and different opportunity to do that.
And of course it does. And the thing that you touched on that immediately pops into my mind, is there a need for us to begin looking at providing access to the internet into every home are we at a point where it may need to be in the Bill of Rights that you shall have the right to have internet in your home because it's becoming so vital for so many things?
Well, I think that's an excellent question, and that's one for probably politicians to debate. But I would tell you that from our perspective, we wish to provide an equitable learning opportunity for all our students. And what that doesn't mean is that every child gets a trophy. It doesn't mean we all finish with the same thing, but what we want to do is eliminate obstacles, barriers, challenges for all of our students where they have a level playing field to work forward with. And certainly access to the internet is important. Most people have it because the phone is simply a device that you almost can't live without today in terms of communication. But we are working in the schools and in the city to try to provide areas that we call hot spots where kids can go if they don't have. For example, you can go to Legion Stadium if you're around there and you can access our internet. You'll be able to do it at our baseball field and our softball fields as well. And we wish to expand those hot spots around the city so you can get somewhere in a short amount of time if you need to get free access. That's just the start of it. The cost part of what you're talking about, I think would probably be enormous, but there are larger conversations, I think, that happen about how we get fiber throughout the state and make sure that all of our kids have that same opportunity. I think that it's going to become more and more of an issue. I think you raise a really good question.
Well, I think of course, if we look at, we don't have a guarantee of outcome. We should have a guarantee of access.
Absolutely.
And that, to me, would appear to be something that we ought to be working toward if we're going to truly have an educational system that is, in a sense, neutral as far as the providing of the information and the resources. It would appear to me that would be a real important thing. Might be business people, it might be a good idea for you to look at providing a hot spot that the kids can use. Too bad we hadn't got a soda shop or a drive-in or two around town where the kids can pull up and have a Coke and do their homework at the same time.
There are a number of businesses in town, particularly restaurants, which is a great place to go and do study groups and things like that provide it. So there are more than we realize. We'll probably find even more of that out as this program is implemented full speed, that you'll see students at certain parts of town or in businesses, and that's good for everybody, at that point.
Well, he wanted me to get out at around this time. I can go what now? I can go more. Okay. Well, the other thing I would ask as we get ready for school is that, are there any choke points that you're looking at where you may have problems as we go into school that people ought to be aware of, or is everything looking smooth?
Well, it's been a really good summer of preparation. We've got our teachers on staff. We're going to be fully ready to go when the kids come tomorrow. That's big. I'm going to tell you the great challenge in education today is the number of teachers that are available. And so more and more school systems throughout America and in our state and our county are competing for teachers. The reality, in the last 5 years, there's a 35% decrease in the number of students who are going into colleges of education. And so we're beginning to age out a lot of veteran experienced teachers, and we don't have the pool to replace. So that's becoming a great challenge. And so I will tell you, when I say we're fully staffed tomorrow, I feel very good about that. And we're staffed with good teachers that are ready to go in the classroom. And that's probably globally the biggest issue that we have to be mindful of.
Wow. Well, I had no idea. I would have thought teaching would have continued to be one of those fields that we would still see a great many people. What about some of the retired teachers? You trying to get any of them back, or?
We'd love to. In fact, we do have we don't do it on a large scale, but we adjunct some courses, meaning that we've got qualified people in the community that can teach courses for us. And we do have a retired teacher that does one of those courses. In fact, we have them many times that come back and substitute. We've got a retired teacher that's going to be part of our reading program at Indian Valley. We have some that'll be parts of others. And a lot of our retired teachers will work with SAFE, that provides great inroads with us with after-school programs and things. So they're still very involved, and I love to spend time with our retired teachers, our retired educators. We did last January some time with them, had a great time, and actually this group has begun working together for a scholarship that they provide for a student from the high school that wishes to go and be a teacher. And this year was the first year they funded a scholarship through the foundation, Sylacauga Foundation, that was paid for by retired teachers. So there's still a great commitment for education here.
That's great. Dr. Todd Freeman, good luck on your adventure this year. I'm sure it will be one.
Thank you. Yes,
as every year is an adventure when you're in education.
Yes.
Time for us to